So, how are we all? I hope you're all well. I wanted to talk today specifically about, I'm guessing, the dangers of what we face in the Idaho case. So we have a look at the dog first. There he is. He's actually chewing his own stuff today, which is quite nice. Not chewing my stuff. So that does make a change. If you missed that video yesterday, I think it was the second video? Actually picks up the RGB light and runs off of it. But anyway, yeah, I think there's a danger in this of falling into a trap. I see all of the videos now, even me yesterday, obviously talking about the fact that there's a lot of speculation, the rumour mill, finger pointing around Jack S now. Jack, J, whatever his fucking name is. And look, you can see why. You can see why. There's a video that shows an altercation of sorts at the food truck. Everybody pointed out right at the beginning, look, this sketchy person in the hoodie and the way he was behaving, there was just something about it. But ultimately, we was really looking at everything on that because it was the footage, the last footage that we saw of victims of a crime. So you analyze everything and you overanalyze everything. But ultimately, what we was watching was not really any different than you would expect to see on any Friday or Saturday night after people have been out, they've been drinking, they've been doing whatever. You know, we've all been teenagers. Some of us might even still be teenagers. And you know what? If this hadn't have gone on to be what it was, then nothing really would have been thought of in that kind of scenario. It's only because it was put in front of us in the aftermath of what there is that we can indeed pull over it. But I do feel that is very, very dangerous because what we can almost do is we can make our minds up that somebody is indeed guilty. You know, a lot of people think that the ex is still sort of prime suspect, and some people have now decided, no, it's actually Jack S. And look, I agree that when you think about the case, these two people are kind of your go-to, if you like. And that's just because of what we've learned in the past about what is the most likely scenario. And that is Angry X. We see the sheer anger and ferocity that took place in these killings, that it brings into, you know, into question whether a disgruntled ex or something like that, because that's your go-to. And then you see this Jack S., you see that he's eloped, he's gone abroad, he's gone to a place that has a non-extradition factor to it. He's got money and wealth behind him when the majority of these kids do. And we automatically are programmed that way to think, you know, that someone's guilty. And it's almost like even parents have now been speculated upon because, you know, we'll hear that locks were changed, and it'll be like, well, who changed the locks? Why did they change the locks? Why was he there? If he was the last one to be anything to do with the lock, then and do you see what I mean? It's almost like tomorrow something else will get said about someone else, and all of a sudden the focus will be temporarily upon them. But this is where it gets dangerous because someone else has been involved. And I'm going to show you something. And you've obviously seen the thumbnail. And this is specifically talking about this, look. And this is shall I bring myself on so you can see my beautiful face, look. So this is regarding Ted Bundy and the similarities in his crimes, the randomness of it. And this isn't just some random person. This is John Henry Brown, which he's the guy who served as a criminal defense attorney for Bundy in the 70s. And he talks about the fact that he has been haunted by Bundy, just the sheer randomness of what he did and the conversations that they would have, the fact that Bundy would follow somebody, he would want to murder them, and then at the last minute he would decide against it. There was no rhyme or reason to it. And the fact is that it was almost a complete accident and luck that he was ever caught. And there are similarities here. There is also some familiarities, because you've got to think to yourself, did the person who did this not kind of contemplate that there were cameras around? The dog situation keeps coming up. Was the person familiar to the dog? But then the argument is that the dog was familiar with everybody. You know, it was used to having people around. And, you know, there's not really anything truly credible that points to anybody specifically and says this is who we have to look at. Every single thing that we've used and kind of used it to point the finger at them is completely circumstantial. You've got the knife, the K-bar knives that show in Jack S's social media, and ultimately this isn't unusual in this area for someone to have knives and weapons and to be interested and have a past that's involved hunting. It's not uncommon here. It's not something that you can say, well, that sticks out like a sore thumb. That's unusual. We need to look at them. You know, it doesn't. We have got the situation where the animals in the area that were skinned or whatever it was attacked, and you think to yourself, that has been said that had nothing to do with these. But I do question things like that. I do question that. There was also, I believe, these animals that were left around this property, and that was put down to wild animal activity. And I've had numerous people who have approached me and said, look, I live around these animals. These animals are in abundance near where I come from, and you don't see this sort of behavior. So that in itself is unusual. So could it have indeed be that we are seeing the birth of someone like Bundy? Is this someone who didn't pick these people because they knew them? It was simply random. It could have been any one of them houses, any one of these students. Let's not forget, there's 25,000 people in this area and 11,000 of them are students. That's a huge proportion that are students in this area. And I just think that it's dangerous territory to become comfortable thinking that you know who it could possibly be. Because people are at their most dangerous when they're not being looked at. And they're not being looked at if people are concentrating on the wrong place. And I'm not saying that it's not these people. I'm not saying that the perpetrator is not someone who's already been spoken to by law enforcement. I'm not saying that Jack S and Jack D and all the other people around this who we have at one time or another looked at with kind of the raised eyebrow. What I'm saying is that doesn't mean that they have indeed done something. It's just that when you look at the case and you look at everything, these are the common traits that will lead you to point the finger at someone. You know, in any murder case where there is a young female who is murdered, who is always the go-to suspect? Who is the person who you will always consider first? Look at Kylie Rodney. Who was the first person who everybody jumped onto? When Nick, the tow truck driver, said that there was a guy who was 6 foot, he had a San Francisco ball cap, who did everybody automatically jump to? Jagger Westfall. And that was wrong because Nick didn't actually describe him. If you listen to really what he said, he didn't describe him, but we made it seem like he did. That's my point, you see. And again, we've seen multiple cases where parents, even if they've done something that seems unusual to us, we feel that they have something to do with it. And look, there's a difference between the lax methodology within their parenting that leads to the hurt of a child, because I'm not ever going to stand by that. I do see multiple cases that I do stand by the fact that your child came to harm because you didn't do what you should have been doing as a parent. But then there's the other things where a parent does something unusual and it does then make you raise your eyebrows as to whether they know something. Not mentioning any names, Lindsay. But so in this, all I'm going to say is keep an open mind and don't think that this is a done deal. Don't think this is signed, sealed, and delivered, because that is quite dangerous. There has been multiple cases where the people who you think are the most likely culprit have indeed not been. And I think that by focusing very heavily on Jack S, Jack D, and the people around this, somebody could be hiding under the radar. And all I don't want to see is that we end up with some other victims and we get hit with a huge curveball and another set of families are destroyed. So we have a quick look and see where the dog... He seems very quiet. There he is, look. Hey, dog. Hello. Say hello to the camera. Say hello to the camera. Hello? He's looking at my hand. I did try and change the old camera to get off the one of the modes to stop it blurring out. So that doesn't do that anymore. But that's it. I don't know what you guys are thinking. Are you still steadfast in the fact that this is either the ex-boyfriend, this is now this jackass, or are you saying that it's one of the parents because they've had something to do with the locks? And look, even professionals are coming out and they are turning around and saying that what... I'm not going to say which parent, you know which one is coming out and saying the stuff that he's saying. I can't see any of the parents in this case having anything to do with this. Personally, I just can't see it. I can see why people are saying what they're saying, but again, as aforementioned, when people are behaving and they're saying things, it's our automatic response to jump onto them. Let's not be so quick to judge. I'll catch you all in the next one.